It's my program. I'm responsible for everything. Thank you very much. Lauren Lathrop over here. Give a shout out, Lauren. Say hey.
Hey.
She's in the background, our resident super barista. That's okay. Ambiance. Derek Lopez in the back. Our resident roast master. So what we're going to talk about today a little bit is flavor profiling for purpose. There's an awful lot of confusion about flavor profiling. And during the course of this presentation, we're going to try to attempt to put that into a context. Because a lot of what happens out there is you guys, you know, it's like the internet's this big, huge thing, and there's all these answers out there, and you take in all this knowledge, and you're so familiar with the thing that once in a while, people that feast on that kind of, you know, have the illusion of expertise. Well, some of them are pretty smart. I'm not taking that away from anybody. But the reality is, I read this in a book, and I thought it was cute. It always falls flat as hell. But let's just try it again. So the guy said, number one, people scoff at what they have not studied. That was pretty profound, right? That's not me. I read that someplace. And number two, he talked about how people have levered themselves out of the mud onto the first step, onto the stairway to heaven, and believe that they have now entered the pearly gates. Right? So a little knowledge will take you a certain amount of distance, but you got to have some context. That's all I'm talking about. So we're going to talk a lot tonight about context. You know, what is the context of roasting? What is the context of flavor profiling? And kind of how do you create a framework for yourself to be more successful with your coffee? Right? And kind of what are the things that go into all that? Okay, so here, let's try this and see what happens. Yes! So profiling for purpose. First question is, why do we love coffee? So everybody's coffee crazy, right? We totally grew on coffee. We're basically like coffee being God's gift to the obsessive compulsive. We're totally jazzed about coffee, right? So why? Why is this such a cool place to be? Now here's what I'm going to tell you. I'm going to give you an outsider's perspective because I spent decades someplace else. I came to this late in life. This whole thing is my hobby gone horribly, horribly wrong. Okay? So the reason I think we love coffee is coffee's a sensory-driven process. This is what happens. It's a relatively high-margin commodity. So there's millions and millions and millions and millions. We'll talk about the numbers in a minute. Drink coffee every single day, right? And basically, you know, if you're hitting pretty solid on specialty coffee, you're probably going to drag home about $5 a pound on coffee. And if you're selling wholesale, you know, your customer, your cafe customer, is basically putting his customers in your hands, and he's trusting you to take care of them, right? So it's a relationship-based thing. I trust you to take care of my customers, right? So one of the interesting things about this is like the people that are successful in coffee tend to be like super bright, interesting, inquisitive, well-meaning, decent, kind human beings, right? And shockingly, people like you share information at an extremely high level of efficiency with people like you. You dig? So there's this, you can kind of feel good about this. This is the feel-good portion of our conversation. There really is. There's a virtuous cycle to this thing. I want you to stop and think about this. When did you first discover what citric versus malic acidity was? I can guarantee you it almost absolutely positively was not the time you were across the table from somebody and he went, "You're stupid!" Right? That didn't work. You're like, "This sucks, I don't want this job." Right? Somebody said, "Hey, check this out. This tastes different from this. This is like apple." Right? And this might be a little Meyer lemon. Alright? Meyer lemon is a joke in our cupping table. That's another story. So, not that it's not a thing. We'll talk about it after class. So anyway, so what I'm telling you is this virtuous cycle is kind of the best people in coffee tend to sort of be the best people. Now there are extremely, excruciatingly glaring exceptions, right? Nobody's as bad as their worst moment. There's a bunch of people in this world whose worst moment is ahead of them, and you don't want to be in the room when it happens. Okay? So, last but not least, the thing I like about coffee, I get to do this. I get to stand here, and for some unbeknownst reason, you're going to listen to me and smile once in a while, right? And, I mean, I pay to do this. I get to do this. You get to roast coffee. The only thing cooler than roasting a couple pounds of coffee and giving it to somebody that loves it is roasting 2,000 pounds of coffee and giving it to a bunch of people that love it, right?
Yes.
So that's what we're talking about. Okay. So, depending on who you talk to, coffee's a $100 billion plus global market. Here's the crazy numbers that I think are interesting. 64% of Americans supposedly drink 3.1 cups of coffee a day. 64%. 74% drink at least 1 cup a day, and 79% make coffee at home. Interesting, right? This, here, I'm afraid to touch this pointer now. These are your lawful prey. That's where your growth is on the retail side. Those are high margin customers, and we're going to talk about ways to meet their coffee need. Right? So you can sell more coffee to them. Okay, so $3.28 a pound, 400 million cups a day in the U.S., 146 billion cups a year. That's a lot of billions, dudes, right? And here's the crazy number. Here's a super wild number. Here's the number that makes MBAs and all the finance guys in the universe salivate every single day. 7% annual growth rate. That's pretty wild. At a time, Claire and I talked about this today, when the risk-free rate of return on a short-term U.S. Treasury bond may be less than 1%, restaurant industry, coffee stuff has 7% annual growth rate. You wonder why Bellwether got $40 million? That's the reason, right? Why is coffee so important? So this is kind of interesting. I had this situation, these guys are going to just pass out because they've heard me babble this story so many times. I'm in Horizon Line Coffee down in Des Moines, Iowa, and I'm with Brad and Nam down there. They've been open for 6 months. It's this typical, neutral, white walls, concrete floor, right, polished, wood tables. I mean, how many times have you been in this place, right? Okay, so there were 2 things that were super special about this. Number one, these guys have been open for 6 months. And aside from the fact that they had my 6K, score, and their coffee was dope, score, okay? I sat there with them for a couple hours and I watched them greet by name every single customer that walked into the place. That was crazy, right? I mean, I have a hard time remembering Nick's name, okay? So it's like, wow, that's pretty amazing. Here's the other thing. Now, you got to understand, I don't hang out in coffee shops. You guys have been there, for ages, right? It's a new thing to me. So I saw something completely new. I saw something I'd never seen before. I'm sitting there, and I watch these people walk in, and they're clutching their little file folder, little file folder, and they grab a cup of coffee, and they sit down across from the table, and they blah, 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 right? And then they split. Okay? What's going on there? So, this is what I think is happening there. Eons ago, dinosaurs roamed the earth. I had a Rolodex. I had a guy for everything. I had a guy, right? If I needed a conveyor belt, I had a guy. If I needed bearings, I had a guy. If I needed a Sagino drill head, I had a guy, okay? And the reason I had a guy was because I was working on these big, huge systems integration projects where every single piece was important, and I absolutely, positively, 100% had to succeed, or else my customer was hit and I had egg all over my face. You dig? So I had a guy, and we went to lunch every single day. We smoked cigarettes. We didn't wear seat belts. Fax machines were cutting edge technology. We're still licking stamps. You get the picture? I probably went to my guy's kid's graduation. I probably went to his anniversary. Maybe we even bowled together. I never bowled, but I hear people did that. We had real relationships for decades. You dig? These were not the good old days. Things were super, super slow. Right? You look at stamp, you sit and wait for 3 weeks. Oh, good, Hibiscus wants to talk again. Wait another 3 weeks. We didn't make much money because things were slow. Look up Milton Friedman, Velocity of Money. It'll make sense to you if you're the economist in the group. Money turns over faster now. You have the internet. You operate at the speed of light. You can find a supplier worldwide for anything you want in an instant, right? But if you're in business, you got to protect you're in the ring. You're in the center of the ring. You got to protect yourself at all times. You got to make sure you don't make a mistake that's going to sink your boat, right? Once in a while, you're going to have to sit across the table from somebody and see, is this guy full of goose grease or what? You dig? That's got to happen. My theory is, this is a little hyperbolic, but it's my thing, I can do that. I really do believe this. I think that your places, the places where people go to do this, I think that personal point of contact is as important to the digital economy as electricity. I think it's that important. And it happens, you rent that seat to these two people for the price of a cup of coffee. And check this out. They want to go where the coffee sucks less. Right? So they walk into your place and they get this coffee, it's pretty cool, and they have this thing and that's okay. And then they go home and they go back here, right? And maybe they even grab a bag of whole bean coffee to take home, right? But check this out. You know, if you've got super major light roasted coffee and they're grinding on their whirly grinder and then they're brewing in their Mr. Coffee and it doesn't extract, it's like tea, what do you suppose they do? What do they do? Anybody know? Take a wild guess. What do you do? Oh, my coffee's too weak. What do I do?
Say that place sucks.
I double up the dose, right? So what extracts first? Acidity. Now it's a big old cup of lemon juice. So you just lost a couple of these $3.28 cups at home. Maybe it's a little less than that at home, but you get the idea. You follow me? I don't want one of these a day. I want to sell like 3 or 4 of those a day, right? So it's important we know who our customer is. We got to put our palate into context of the market, right? Very wise, super smart. I'm a genius. Yahoo. Okay, so quality matters. Now this trend holds true all the way through. 1999, supposedly 9% of U.S. adults drinking specialty coffee. By 2017, 59%. That's a big change. Those are big numbers, right? That smells like 7%. Okay, awesome. So, like, duh, increased quality drives increased consumption. Tell me something I don't know. Okay, so what are the coffee quality predictors? Number one predictor of coffee quality is the quality of your greens. You're not going to get anything out of your cup that isn't there to begin with, right? Number two, skill of the operator. Are you interested? Are you engaged? Are you charging the drum and watching YouTube for 16 minutes? Because I've seen that. Has anybody else seen that? No? No, you guys are so innocent. Okay. Last 15 seconds to the roast. That's about 2.5 degrees. Think about that. Last minute of the roast, you're probably bumping along at 10 degrees or less, ready to rise. Last 15 seconds, you're going to be 2.5 degrees. Quality extraction. So you got the best greens in the world, and you got the best roast possible, and then your local barista grinds it in a dirty vacuum pot and it tastes like sauce. Right? I hate it when that happens. Capability of the machine. Okay, that's my part. Effective BTU, airflow, drum speed, predictability, and flexibility. So you're gonna need you're gonna either need a machine that provides all that, or you're gonna have to figure out how to roast on one that doesn't. Okay, now we're gonna shift gears for just 1 second. We're gonna talk about, here, this is counterintuitive, the McRib. Okay? Anybody here admit to ever eating a McRib? One guy, 2, 3. Oh God, you guys, Portland, I love Portland, that's awesome. Nobody copped to that in Boulder, let me tell you. They're like, no, it's not vegan. Okay, anyway, enough picking on Colorado people. So we're talking about oat milk, because Nathaniel has advised me that I can say the term oat milk. So this, as you are well aware, this dairy alternative product is kind of on the rise, right? It started out with soy, and then almond, right? And then what was the next one? Yeah, not in Minnesota, maybe rice. And then oat.
Yeah.
I've never seen coconut. I'm actually kind of jazzed about that. I want to see that. Okay, so this is interesting. These numbers, this trend, and we're going to talk about the trend as your friend, okay? Because you want to take advantage of this. These numbers are on the upswing. So this is kind of interesting. This shows, this is from the United Kingdom, and honestly, this kind of blew me away a little bit. So we talked to Nathaniel at Pacific Foods about creating a non-dairy specialty beverage based on Pacific Foods Barista Series oat, right? Thought that was cool. And then like maybe we would attempt to do the most positive roast with pair of coffee and try to pair that as a beverage for both brewed and espresso. Okay. So then I'm looking into this because I know I have to stand up here and make a fool out of myself, so I'm doing the research. 50%, listen to this number, in the United Kingdom, supposedly, unless they're making it up, 50% of espresso drinks are served with non-dairy alternative. Okay, so where's that come from? Well, environmental concerns seem to be a big one. Health concerns seem to be another one, right? That's kind of spreading here. And I didn't know. I thought it was interesting. Okay. So one of the things that you guys have to do is you have to compete, right? So check this out. This is the galaxy of large entrenched corporate competitors who are all attempting to get a piece of the 7% that you guys are creating, because it's you. You're the ones that are creating the 7%, not them. These guys are following you. Warren Buffett said years ago that in this market, there are innovators, which is you. There are imitators, which is most of them, right? And then there's idiots, which is some of them. Okay? Seriously. When Dairy Queen says, we're going to put espresso machines in all of our shops. Oh, okay. Good job. You go. See how that works. Wrong answer. Not going to happen. So, again, these guys, how do I want to say this? You're kicking their ass, whether you know it or not. You're doing a better job with your coffee. You're doing a better job with customer experience. They are following you. You are not following them. Okay? So today, one of the things I want to do is give you a way to think about how we can steal a little of their thunder and win a little more market share locally. Okay, so we're going to make, the first thing we're going to do, so Derek and I, when we talk about this, we sat in our office, and Lauren was out judging something again, so you weren't around, and, you know, we're stupid. Well, I'm stupid, so I'm talking to Derek about my ideas. And I said, well, gee, you know, we thought this was going to be an espresso thing, but what would happen if we made this, or at least one of these, out of brewed coffee? And this is the reason why. So let's talk about the McRib for a second. The reason they do the McRib, why don't they do the McRib year-round? Did you see this? It was on CNN. Oh, the McRib's back. Or what about the Shamrock Shake? Why do they do that? You ever wonder that? Why don't they serve that stuff every day? Okay, I'm going to tell you super fast. They do that to get you in the store. Because you go in, oh, the McRib's here. You go in Monday, you have the McRib. Oh, this is the best thing ever. And then you go back like Tuesday or Wednesday, you get another one, and then you stumble in like Saturday, and they're gone. But you're standing at the counter, so what are you going to do? They think you're going to order something different. They use that as a thing to get people in the door. You dig? That's what they do. Okay. You're going to do the same thing. So this, we designed this as the idea was seasonal, oat-based specialty beverage. It's relatively inexpensive, it's pretty quick. You could have a vacuum pot of heated oat product there, and your normal brewed drip coffee, and you can combine them and shake a little cinnamon and a little, what's the salt called?
Malted sea salt.
Sea salt, flakes. Malted. A little salt on top, right? A little jazz, and it's cheap and it's quick. It's low risk, and they're gonna like it. And then they're gonna come back and spend $6 on the espresso thing, right? That's what we wanna do. Okay, so we're gonna taste the oat product, and I'm gonna get out of here. You ready to come up?
Yeah.
Come on, I'll pass this stuff out.
I can pass this stuff out. I mean, most of us have tried it, right? You want to just taste it cold?
Oh, I thought you had a porter already.
No. Yeah.
Okay. There.
Nathaniel, do you want to talk about our oat milk?
Yeah, Nathaniel, come up and talk about the oat milk.
Why am I for it? Yeah. Cool.
So let's taste this. This is Pacific Barista Series oat milk. And it's okay to say oat milk, as long as we don't put it on the package, it's legal. So Pacific has been making oat since 1993. We actually started out as a plant-based beverage company, making soy and rice and oat and basically anything that we could squeeze really hard and milk would come out of, we made into milk. And a while ago, it occurred to us that soy and almond and coconut and rice were great, but there was a very strong and thriving demand for something with oats in it. And oats, it turns out, are really, really great. They are sustainable in where they're grown. We get all of our oats from Eugene. Turns out Eugene's a big old oat producing area. I lived there for a big portion of my life. Never saw an oat. But there's a lot of oats in Eugene, so we get all of our oats from Eugene. Oats are super high in protein. And if you can cook them well and you can make sure that they actually liquefy and don't turn into oatmeal, you actually get something that is pretty neutral in flavor. It's not exactly like milk, but it tastes pretty good, and it is a nice, fairly neutral palate for you to layer other things in on top of, particularly your coffee. So, hope you're enjoying it. Here it is, either room temperature or cold, whichever one we serve it to.
Sure.
It's good either way.
Yeah.
It's good either way.
Yeah. So we're doing this. Sorry, I'm supposed to. If I'm talking to you, I'm supposed to be standing up here. We're doing this not to like expose you all to oat milk or to convince you that you need to be carrying it in your shops. You know what you carry. That's fine. We're doing it because there's intentionality with every ingredient that goes into these beverages. There's intentionality with how you all approach your coffees at the roaster. There's intentionality to how the barista approaches these beverages at the machine. And so the goal, one of the many goals of this workshop is to consider the purpose as we start to talk about the process. What's next is Derek's going to come up and talk us through a lot of different profiles of two coffees, because the specialty beverage that we designed with this oat product is being served two ways. We're basically making an oat olé with a cinnamon simple syrup and then an oat latte with the cinnamon simple syrup, and those are both different coffees that we utilized. So we'll taste a few iterations of a Java that Derek's going to talk about, and then a Guji that Derek's going to talk about. The Java is intended for the drip coffee beverage, the olé, and the Guji for the espresso beverage. And we'll taste both of those drinks in their final form using the profiles that we like the best for this beverage. Does that make sense? So the only thing that we're not tasting is the cinnamon syrup on its own. It tastes like sugar and cinnamon. But that's the idea, is to build upon the intentionality and the purposefulness of it and kind of invite all of us to think about that whole process, not in terms of, oh, this is just what I ended up with, but really thinking about what is the best way to make this drink. I worked as a barista for many, many years. Derek worked as a roaster for many, many years. We have not really worked in each other's job for a long time. And I can tell you as a barista that I never talked to the roaster about how that coffee, what types of drinks that coffee was going into, just as my roasters never asked me how I wanted that coffee roasted, right? And so one of the things that we do at Mill City is is to try to bridge that gap by providing barista training to roasters and roaster training to baristas, so that we can kind of be in more communication with each other. And so far it's been very interesting and very effective. So Derek, have you come up? There's going to be a lot of coffees passed out. If you prefer to use the same cup, just kind of keep it in your hand. Otherwise, just swap your cup onto the tray for a new one. I'll have coffees in paper cups or in like a little servo, so you can choose. Yeah.
Thank you, Laura.
Yeah.
Thank you, Steve. Thank you, Nathan. All right, well, I guess we'll get into coffee stuff now. All right, well, welcome. So yeah, my name is Derek Alipas. Some of you might know me. Most of you, I don't think you do, actually. So that's great. Yes, I've been roasting for I guess I've been a production roaster for a little more than 12 years. Although these days I only production roast like a day or 2 a week. So it kind of like, I don't know. I guess I'm still a production roaster, but only 1 or 2 days a week. So I don't really feel like I could say that as strongly as I used to be able to say it when I was 5 days a week. But I feel like I still roast enough. Okay, so yeah, I'm a roaster. I really identify as a roaster. So before that, I was a chef, and so I spent my whole life browning stuff, making stuff taste good. That's kind of been my thing. To be honest, right out of high school, I worked for a master chef from France, actually, and I spent 17 years in kitchens previous to coffee. And so, like, the reason I say that is that a lot of what I do comes from that perspective. It comes from a very culinary arts perspective, you know what I mean? And hearing Lauren explain the kind of back and forth that we're starting to kind of create in those city between baristas and roasters, you know, that to me is it's kind of a natural aspect of the kitchens, you know what I mean? I know you don't have as much camaraderie in the front of the house and the back of the house, you know, there's definitely a separation of duty, but you know, every shift, I don't know if you guys, many people have worked in kitchens, you know, but every shift you have a pre-shift, you know what I mean, at serious restaurants, I should say. So a serious restaurant, you know, you get ready to do dinner service, you have a pre-chef meeting. Pre-chef meeting is usually the chef or the chef de cuisine or the sous chef, whoever presents the night's menu to the front of the house. And there's this moment where they connect and they talk about everything that could happen that night. You know what I mean? There's a lot of connections there. And so front of the house can tell back of the house at that point stuff. Hey, you know, last night's special really didn't work. It's like, oh, okay, thanks. I'm gonna pass that on. We'll fix it. And vice versa. The front of the house or the back of the house tells the front of the house, hey, this is what we're gonna do tonight. If there's any questions about this, come get us. It's gonna be really good. This is how it's gonna work. So there's a fair amount of back and forth, you know. And in good kitchens, you know, front of the house can go into the back of the house, and back of the house can go into the front of the house. It's a shared space. So I like that. I've always liked that. When I first started getting into coffee, and I found out that a lot of roasters didn't allow other roasters to come visit and hang out in the roastery and learn, I was like kind of shocked. Because in kitchens, that's not a thing at all. Like any chef that's worth their bones at all will allow any other chef to come in and learn for free. That's just part of the game. You know what I mean? We want the art to grow. You know what I mean? We're not going to shut someone else down, especially people that want to learn, underlings that don't have access to the craft. You know what I mean? That's just wrong. You know what I mean? So as a roastery or as a roaster, we want to kind of just break that down. So I'll probably make reference to a lot of stuff like that as we go on. So with me, my basic roast philosophy is I start with the cup. I always start with the cup that I'm trying to create. That's where it all starts. So this is a perfect example is, we're going to work with this beverage. So I started with the oat beverage. So when Steve talked to me about creating this beverage, the first thing I said back to Steve was, hey, can we get the oat beverage and try it? Like, I need to try that so I can start to build a catalog of what that would taste like, so that I can start to so that I can then start to harvest from my catalog all the knowledge I have around flavors and stuff to try and build something that'll pair with the oat beverage. So that's where it all starts for me. And I start that way with all my roasts. I start with what I want in the cup. Then I basically go to choosing a green. Okay, this is what I want in the cup. I want, you know, body, sweetness, maybe some citrus, maybe some, you know, nuttiness. Okay, what coffees would work in that? Then I start to hone back that way. Then I basically build the profile. So that's just my basic process. And it's very much from the culinary perspective. And what I mean by that is I don't have a lot of rules. And maybe it even means I'm a little lazy. You know what I mean? Because I start thinking about, like, oh, I'm in Portland, man, I should really talk about, like, density and, like, water content and water activity. You know, I really want you guys to think I'm awesome at roasting. You know what I mean? Or I was like, that's kind of thought I could maybe trick you guys into thinking that. But that's just not me. You know what I mean? Like, I don't do that. You know what I mean? I don't do that with green coffee. I'm not super down deep into, like, density and the water activity and the blah, blah, blah. And I was kind of starting thinking this morning that I'm a little lazy and that I'm maybe like a hack roaster a little bit. You know what I mean? And then I started thinking about kitchens. I've never once heard of chefs getting into that stuff with products. Like, oh, we need to check the water content of the carrots today to make sure that when we do the carrot sous vide, it's not off. It's like, well, yeah, that would be a thing maybe. You probably could make a better carrot sous vide if we but you just don't do that. You just move forward. You're just like marching. It's like, just march. We'll figure it out when we get there. It's like, yeah, okay, let's do that. So that's kind of my perspective. Like for me, it's not about perfection, it's about just kind of making stuff taste good. And also like I think Steve said this the other day, it's not having fun. You know what I mean? If the roastery ain't fun, I'm sorry, you know what I mean? Because it should be fun. You know what I mean? You got fire, you got dust, you got smoke, you got loud stuff, you can put on cool music, you should have fun. Alright. Okay, so I also, when I build profiles at Mill City, we're in a place right now where we're not doing a lot of production roasting for sale. Saleable roasted coffee, you know what I mean? So when I build a profile, much like our Java profile, our Guji profile, I'm trying to think of what I would have built before this event, I'm not really sure right now. I'm saying I probably get to about 85 to 95% accurate to what in my brain I think I can create with this coffee once I build my plan. So like I start with the cup, so I start with this cup, and then I choose the green. At that moment, I already kind of know what I can get out of this cup, like what it should be. My brain already formulates that into a thing. You know what I mean? It's abstract and it's somewhere in my noodle, but that's a thing. But when I actually do the work, currently I'm only getting to about 85 to 95% to that place. I don't go all the way to that place. I'm saying that I probably could get to that place with about 3 to 5 roasts more from here, that we're at right now, in probably about 5 to 7 days. And that would mostly be for rest. You know what I mean? The reason I don't do that is we don't sell the coffee. So there's not really a reason for me to spend my time in Mill City that I could spend doing tech support, sourcing greens, you know, other things, tuning the drum gap on the 20K. It just doesn't make sense for me to spend that time working on a profile to perfect it, to not sell the coffee. So I just want you guys to know that in my context currently, I'm not dialing these profiles into perfection, in my opinion. But that does not mean that it's not kick-ass good coffee. But it could mean it's not. All right. So yes, so for me, I have a naturally innate understanding of flavor and development, and that comes from my experience. Like I said, I started working in kitchens when I was 16, to be honest, you know what I mean? And I was telling Steve the other day, I'm on my 29th year of full-time work, with only 6 weeks that I haven't worked full-time. And it's always been in the back of the house, making stuff taste good, you know what I mean? So through that process, I've just learned how things taste and what things taste like, and I build all these catalogs of how things taste. And then I can sit up here. I mean, you guys could just throw 5 ingredients at me, and I could build a dish in my head. A lot of stuff I don't need to actually do. I can just do it in my brain. I create it in my brain, and then it comes out, you know, in the real world. That's just from experience. And that's not because I haven't tasted these things. I have. And I've tasted them many, many, many times in many different iterations. That's how I have this catalog. All right, does that make sense? Cool. That's just a little about me. All right, so let's move on to the Java. Okay, so this is the Java sample roast. So basically, when I sample roast, I use the old standards, you know, that we have, which maybe we don't have a new standard yet. So for my sample roasting protocol, this is going to actually be the actual sample roast, which is strange because I don't do data logging on sample roasting. But because we wanted to present the sample roast profiles to you all, I had to data log. So actually, I thought that looked pretty cool too. So traditional sample roasting protocol for me, I do all of my sample roasting on the 500 gram. It's 190 to a 200 gram charge. I do a 365 degree charge temperature. That's my protocol I've set up on this machine to achieve all my markers for sample roasting. I use 50 air on the dial, that's a medium airflow, 1.2 kPa at charge. So I basically charge the drum, I have my airflow already set, and I hit the gas on right away. I already have my gas set, so I don't even have to set it. I just hit the button and it goes. So basically through that, my goals are green to yellow transition in 3 to 4 minutes, burst crack in 6 to 8 minutes, and then I drop the coffee a minute 15 after crack. Super simple stuff. No manipulations. This isn't trying to like fancy up the coffee. This is actually trying to do the opposite. It's trying to demystify what could be in this green. So that's what I do. And you can see from this, it was pretty perfect. So we cupped this, and we basically came up with these flavor descriptors: earthy, citrus, honeysuckle, slightly astringent. And this is the sample roast.
This is not
Yep.
this is roast number 1.
So from that, then I started to think about roast 1. So roast 1, I then got to the 1 kilogram. So all these roasts I did in the 1 kilogram, and I basically use the same charge temperature across the board for these roasts. So what this roast I would call would be a standard light, just a standard light roast. This is the profile that I feel like I can give to any person, and you should be able to achieve it pretty well. You know what I mean? I feel like this profile also can get you in the game. You're not going to win the championships with this profile, but you're also not going to get kicked to the curb with this profile. You know what I mean? Pretty solid. Because you're going to show a little origin, you're going to show some development. I think it's solid. You know, so 1 kilogram charge for all roasts, 400 degree charge temp. I charge off the PID, that's the way we train roasters in Mill City. So you can see the graph has been run off ET and BT. So you're going to see a little variance there on my charge temps, but then everything else should be pretty much spot on. Feel free to ask questions at any point if I'm saying stupid stuff, muddled words, I'm not talking clearly enough. I'm here for you all. 400 degree charge temp. I have my air set at 40. I like to set up my air once I've basically finished my last roast. I close the drum door. I then set my airflow to my starting airflow for my next roast, and then I let the roaster equalize. And I sit and I step back, and sometimes I'll watch how much heat it holds, just so I can gauge how much energy is in the system. Because I'll manipulate my charge temps. I'll be really honest there. I don't charge all at the same time when I'm production roasting. I'm not going to sit there for 4 minutes and wait for the machine to come down in temp, 10 degrees, when I can just charge and go and then extend my stop and go or do other manipulations of fuel input to basically cover that distance. That's just the way I am, because production roasting is kind of about making money. So 400 degree charge on this one. 1 minute, so basically I did no fuel for 1 minute on all these roasts. And that's that's really about the capability of the machine. That's not because in my brain I was like, this coffee needs 1 minute. I mean, that could be a thing too, but for me, it was the capability of the machine. The machine had the capability to roast the profile to where I wanted it at full charge with waiting a minute to put energy in. That's just the way the machine could handle it. So 1 minute, I hit it with 1.5 kPa. I then basically let it ride. I don't do but maybe 2 or 3 manipulations of roast, generally. At 412, I hit dry end or green to yellow transition. I usually increase my airflow right around green to yellow transition. So once again, I did. I went from a 40 on the dial to a 48 on the dial, which I would call like a medium airflow. Then again, I let it ride a little bit. At 442, I lowered my gas to 0.8 kPa. I then let that ride a little bit. At 715, I started to kind of feel like crack was going to come a little bit. So I increased my airflow to 55, which would be my higher airflow setting. I lowered my fuel to 0.5, and then I basically let it ride. It looks like I had a finished temp of 397, and it was a 927 roast. So 927 to 397. It looked like it was a 44, 36, 20 as far as percentages go. Oh, that's a little wacky. That one's really different. 40, 40, and 20, I guess, as far as percentages go. So yeah, pretty kind of standard. And you'll see too, on a lot of my roasts, you'll see this like kind of steep drop off, like there. And I don't know, like maybe some of you all are like, man, that coffee might be crappy. Which you all can taste it, so you can tell me if it's crappy or not. So you guys think that like really crazy drop made the coffee taste crappy? No one's gonna say yes. No, I should have grabbed. She grabbed no. She was like, tastes good, right? I had a little earlier. I thought it tasted good. Nathaniel, it's good. Totally. Okay, cool. There's enough ingredients here that I mean, so for me, can anyone tell me what's going on here with me in my brain as a roaster? Why would I want that steep drop off like that after crack? Because I want to slow down the rate of rise. I'm going for a slowing down rate of rise. I want the coffee to stay in that phase a little longer. So if I'm in the phase and I have a little too much momentum and I stay at my current rate of rise, that coffee's going to finish in no time. You know what I mean? For me, time and temperature, they're games. You play with them both. You know what I mean? So I need time, so I have to sacrifice temperature. So I do this insane low, increase airflow, lower my fuel, lower the temperature. But you can see it's not a complete crash. I hit a spot and then I hover. And I kind of have an innate sense for where that's going to happen. You know what I mean? Sometimes I'll lose it, but usually not. You know what I mean? So I don't think holding your rate of rise line or dropping your rate of rise line or even increasing your rate of rise line post dry end, post first crack is going to ruin your cup. That's just not my belief. For me, the proof's in the pudding. The profile, like Steve says, we don't cup the profile. We cup the coffee. You know what I mean? So, all right. So after this roast, the team said dark chocolate, green tobacco, and lemon. What do you guys think? You guys thought there's some good stuff there? Cool. I like this job. This job was really cool. I got this coffee from Cafe. I thought it was really cool to do a Java. I'm coming deep into Indos right now. They're not my favorite cup. My favorite cup is a Wash Ethio, so it's kind of weird that I'm into the Indo thing. But like, it's just an interesting coffee, and it's called Java. So you can actually tell people, hey, you want a cup of Java? And they're like, yeah. And you're like, actually, it's from Java. So I thought that was really cool. But whatever. I'm a dork. All right, let's go into number 2. All right, so roast number 2. So I would call this one extended mid. I wish I had better names like Watchmen names for all my episodes, but I have to have boring names like extended mid. That was for you, Nick. All right. You have to go down me with these names. Okay, so same thing, extended mid. So basically I'm trying to extend the mid phase, that's what I call that middle phase, or the unnamed phase, or the Maillard phase, or whatever we want to call that phase. The unnamed phase is kind of cool. 400 degree charge temp, air at 40. That was kind of my standard air for this roast to start. Fuel off again at 1 minute. I went in with 1.1 kPa, so a little less gas because I'm trying to go in a little bit softer. Overall, I want to extend the time, but I'm really focusing on the mid phase. 423, I hit dry end, which then I increased my air to 48. I then lower my gas to 0.75. Kind of right at dry end, trying to go for that extension. Which I went into it a little bit longer too, which is good for me or good for my thoughts. I want to say how I was trying to plan it. At 8 minutes, I then increased the airflow to 54. This was pre-crack, trying to extend it a little more. Basically at 8:21, it looks like first crack happened, which is really solid for what I was trying to go for in this roast. At 9:48, I then lowered the gas again to about 0.4 kPa, and then it looks like this roast ended 10:10, 394. A little off there, but that's just the way life goes. And then it looks like it's a 43:39:18 profile or a 39:43:18 profile. Okay. Yeah, so I was going for that extending mid. What I really think about is the mid for me. The dry phase is the course. You're setting the course for the roast, for the coffee. You're not going to make the best coffee, but you're also not going to destroy your cup in that phase. I want to say, well, maybe you could destroy it. Probably not though. And then I think of mid phase is body sweetness. You're really trying to enhance body and sweetness. Get that energy deep into the seed. Potentially, because in the development phase you won't be able to do that. And then I think of development as defining overall roast level, but then also how much nuance versus how much roast is on the cup. So that's kind of the way I think about these phases. So my thoughts being extending the mid, we're going to increase body and sweetness. Any drink, in my opinion, that's going to have other things in it, milk, flavoring, I think body and sweetness you kind of got to work on so that it holds up in that drink. That was part of what I was thinking about this. Okay, so the team cupped this one and chose pipe tobacco, raw asparagus, and savory as the descriptors. What do you guys think about that? Good, bad, and different?
I got a lot more citrus.
A lot more citrus. I like it.
I like
Woo. Yeah, so there's some nice lemon in this coffee. It's really solid that way. That was kind of what sold me on it. If it wouldn't have had the citrus, I probably would have passed on it, to be really honest. Because it would have been kind of one-dimensionally boring. You know what I mean? Like I said, I like washed EPOs, so it's got to have lemon.
And these two things, just so we're aware, I'm not on camera, so let me jump in.
Jump on in.
Uh,
I don't have a cool sweater.
you need, well, I'll
We match.
borrow it. No, okay. So, number one, Derek is a little handicapped because every time he gets used to a roaster, I give him a new one.
But I'm stronger. A strong-willed roaster.
So there's that.
Or maybe I'm not. Maybe I'm just broken.
And number two, this coffee is rested.
Rested.
So we cut this, we cut these about 8 hours off roast, right? And we've been driving over the Rockies, And we were gonna re-roast and then we forgot to bring the greens. So, sorry.
It's on me.
But I think you get an idea. We're gonna talk a little bit about extending these mids and what's actually happening inside the drum and inside the seed. So just keep that in mind a little bit. I'll get out of the way.
No, we're good. Thank you, sir. All right, so now we're going to 3. So you can see, so one's kind of my standard. I always have a standard roast when I do coffee, standard roast, lighter, kind of see what it's got. Then I kind of want to, hey, let's just, what do you think this coffee could use as an improvement? Let's extend them in. And usually I do 3 roasts with any new coffees. The first 3. Then I let them rest, then I cup them, then I start to work on honing it down. So with 3, I decided to go gentle start, extended development. But then also what I didn't say was, I'm going to go a little darker. I'm going to change the caramelize the dark roast level quality of it and just see if that impacts cup 2. Maybe it'll make it better, you know what I mean? So that's kind of what I went for. So Java 3, 400 degree charge once again, but I mistakenly did not lower my air after the last roast. That happens as a roaster, you know what I mean? So I had my air at 50 to start this roast in error, but maybe it was actually, sometimes good things come from mistakes. So then I went with a 2-minute soak because I wanted to slow this roast down. I wanted to slow it down, but I was gonna go a little more aggressive later on. So at 2 minutes, I hit it with 1.5 kPa. Roughly, we hit dry end, green to yellow transition at 439. I then lowered my airflow instead of bringing it up because I was in air above, and that's when I realized it. So I lowered my air to 48, which is kind of wacky, but sometimes higher airflow roasts are good. So at 8 minutes, kind of thinking that the first crack was coming along, I decided to increase my airflow again to 52, kind of like I did in the previous roast. At 8:13, I hit first crack. Basically at 8:50, I lowered my gas to 0.75 kPa, and then I let this roast ride 10:36 to 4:06. And then you can see that mid phase is much shorter. So 44:34, is that right? Oh, see, 40, 37, 22. So extended the development phase, went farther into development phase too, so kind of a double whammy on it, and then shortened my mid or sacrifice time in the mid to add it to development, which that's kind of some of the basics of what I try to do. I'll shift percentages when I'm looking at percentages, usually from mid to development in those early trials of roast development. So, and then from this one, it looks like we got baker's chocolate, molasses, cedar, creamy, and balanced. So we kind of like this one. We thought this one had a lot of qualities that would lend itself to the oat milk. What do you guys think? Nice, good, cool, wow, all right. All right, so then on 4, I decided to get a little wacky, because that's usually what I do. Once I get to something that I like, I then deviate off of what I like. I kind of create variances of what I like. So at job 4, I went long, mid, short development. That was kind of my idea. I would do really extend the mid and try and short the development, really short, just to see if maybe I could trap some nuance that might be really exciting and kind of cool for this coffee. You know what I mean? Thinking about it being an oat milk too, though, so that's maybe a little bit, maybe that was a thought and error.
If you're done.
400 degree charge, 40 air, just like before. At 1 minute, I did 1 kPa gas, a little bit lower fuel input. 429, I had green to yellow transition. I then increased my air to 48. I'm gonna grab a list one actually.
Yeah.
429, I increased my air to 48, right at green to yellow transition. 811, I hit my first crack, and then that was 54. I increased my air just like I had been in the previous roasts. At 9 minutes, I lowered my gas to 0.5, and then this roast ended 946 at 397, so basically in the range of those first 2 roasts. And then the percentages were 42, 42, 16. So yeah, I like roasts like this, to be really honest. These are kind of the roasts that I've been working on a lot more for my lights. Especially with certain coffees that I really want to accentuate body and sweetness and trap that nuance. Like I want the acidity and nuance, but I also want the body and sweetness. So like this could be a roast that might work really well on like a natural, in my opinion. Because sometimes naturals are one-dimensional because they have too much body and sweetness and not enough acidity. You know what I mean? So that was kind of this. Looked like your cupping team called this one fruity and tart, honey, hibiscus, black tea. So that's right at my alley. I don't know if it was real or not, but it sounds like me deal. Nice. Ooh, that's actually nice.
What did you do with the airflow before first?
54. So I increased my airflow. It's pretty standard for me on these roasts. 40. So my lower airflow. 48, right around green to yellow transition, and then I increased it to 54. Right pre-crack. Usually it's about 15. The first time I hear an outlier, that's when I increase my airflow. First outlier, and then I just to be honest, I call crack at 3, and I'm gonna change my ways. As a roaster, you always change what you do. It's weird and it's hard. But lately, before I was doing it at 3. Now I'm doing it at 3 without a break. That's any kind of like audible break. So it's like, and then it's like, oh god, okay, right. It's like, okay, there's it. You know what I mean? So I'm calling it 3 pops that then are part of a roll. You know what I mean? So, but at outlier, I increase my air.
Is airflow 0 to 100?
0 to 100, yeah, totally 0 to 100. It's really strange. If you want, you can go on our website, and we have a Wheel City lighter video. Like that's the one trick that all roasters can utilize to do the airflow tests on your roasting machines. You know what I mean? It's just really helpful. Like it was fun this year at Roasters Guild. I met a competitor of the Mexican Roasting Championships, and I pulled out my lighter, and there was all these. So I'm a little bit older, and there was like millennials that were roasting over here. And I pulled out my lighter and put it in the dryer, and they all turned and were like, "What are you guys doing?" And it was just like, "All right." And he was like, "We're doing the lighter trick," and it was like, "Oh, we're old." so yeah. But we have a video. All right, we're going on 5. All right, so let's look Derek a little far with this one. Okay, so job number 5, I would call this longer development to a lighter level. So that time and temperature is something you need to play with as a roaster. That's the game we play. You know what I mean? So 400 degree charge again. My air was at 40. At 1 minute, I did the 1 kPa again, kind of like the lower input gas for this roast. 433, I hit dry end. I increased my airflow again to 48. That's kind of standard for this roast, to be honest. At 724, I increased my airflow to 54, and I also lowered my gas to 0.5 kPa, so yay, we have a really steep little climb right there, or descent, I should say. 823, I hit first crack. I roughly, at 910, I then lowered the gas again, because I was trying to manipulate this roast and control it as it was moving kind of fast. 1050, I went to 395. And then it looks like for percentages, we have 38, 39, and 22. Yeah, so I kind of went longer time to a lighter level. So I dropped it 1050, 395. So I kind of was trying to split the difference of that number 3 and make kind of like 2 bookends of 3. And so we ended up cutting this one out and we called it black pepper, cranberry, and herbaceous. And I don't know if that's good or bad or indifferent. It kind of sounds wacky to me. I'm like, black pepper, cranberry? I don't know, maybe that's the dish. Herbaceous, ooh, now we're talking pizza, so that's kind of wacky. But yeah, what do you guys think of this one? Maybe I went too far with it. Smooth, kind of soft, yeah. Yep, longer development for sure. Yeah. 1050, it's the longest roast of the whole set and with the longest development. And I think overall time in the drum is a thing too. You know what I mean? I think of time as phases and then time overall. You know what I mean? Like I think of it as 4 concepts, I guess. All right. So then that basically ended our little Java experience. And so then, as a team, we decided on 3. Yep, we decided on 3. We thought 3 had the most qualities that would lend itself to the overall concept that we came up with around the oat milk olé.
Yeah, and again, like thinking about, you know, Derek as a roaster, probably he was just roasting for a coffee that he wanted to drink or he wanted to share with people as a single origin. Probably would have been 3, right? But
Or I would double down on 4.
yeah, and we were all like, we all had first choice, second choice at the table. But I think we defaulted to my preference because I knew the drink that we were building was going to need a lot of balance, was going to need a lot of sweetness, was going to need a lot of roundness. We played around with a different ratio, a different brew recipe for the actual prepared olé beverage. We wanted to brew it a little bit stronger so that it would come through those other flavors.
Yep.
But you know, tasting, especially roasts 4 and 5, now that they've had a chance to rest, like the sweetness has increased, the tartness, the dryness has decreased a little bit. I think now, in hindsight, being what it is, like any of those roasts would have worked well. But it's been a really interesting like collaboration. So 3 is what we went with. Do you want to do that beverage now, or do you want to do it?
Let me jump in here.
Yeah, go ahead. I just want to see the next slide. Oh, that's it. I'm going back.
So, there's a couple, this is what I think. You know, we've literally taught thousands of people to use our machines. And this is my dirty little secret, okay? Here's what we do. We're almost more like a small business incubator than a machinery company. So what we do is we set people up, you know, they've never roasted before. So we get them a small machine, bring them into class, we kind of teach them how to run it. We teach them how to identify a superior green coffee. We kind of give them we give them enough, I don't want to say this. We give them enough to be successful, like immediately successful. We point them towards green coffees. So every one of these is pretty solid, especially now that they've rested. This last cup was my least favorite. And this black pepper, I kind of feel like that's almost a more classical Indonesian flavor.
Sure, spicy.
And it's present, and it's kind of neat.
Yeah, I like this.
We're brewing, we're not immersion cupping, so there's a slightly different thing there. So, but all things being considered, each of these roasts could be considered successful. Now, are they perfect? No. But there's no reason to set the perfect up as the enemy of the good, especially for commercial reasons, right? Now look, I am not telling you that you should cut corners. I'm not telling you that, you know, there's a value to effort, sustained effort over time. You should grow in wisdom and understanding. You should become better roasters. You should strive to attain that, right? But so often, we run into people that are absolutely convinced that whatever they're doing at the roaster is absolutely wrong. Well, where's the fun in that? Why do you want to do this? You should have fun with this. It should be a delightful thing. The number one reason we chose this coffee was because it was named Java. How dumb is that? Sweet. The number one reason, listen, I'm just keeping it real. I mean, I thought, wow, that's really cool. Let's do it with something called Java. The number one reason we went with a brewed thing for the specialty drink was because we could call it an oat olé, because I just thought it sounded cool, right? Well, check it out. If I think it sounds cool, so do your customers. You dig? So let's have some fun with this. Let's try to lighten up. Let's try to have some fun with our coffee. Let's not get all jacked up about, oh, this is, you know, you guys have all heard the arguments, right? My argument, this is good coffee. Use good greens, you don't ruin it, you don't go outside, and we're going to talk about this in a little bit, a couple minutes. We're going to go a little further into this, so I'm going to explain to you exactly why I think this, and I think it'll make sense. And if it doesn't, well, you can just ask for your money back. Are you ready? Yep. All right, let's do this. Let me get out of camera.
Garnish. Please enjoy. Please enjoy. Please enjoy. I'm going to stop saying.
Are they not supposed to enjoy this? It's roasted on.
Okay. 1 kilogram. coffee brewed, you know, as Lauren said, it's a simple syrup. I think this is the, oh it is, where did it go? Yeah. And the simple syrup was basically 1 quart of white sugar, 1 quart of water, 3 tablespoons of ground cinnamon. I brought it to a boil, simmer, for like maybe 30 seconds, turn it off, let it sit, strain it, and then once it was cool, then I put in 3 teaspoons of vanilla extract. And that's it. But you know, I don't think we refrigerated. We refrigerated a little bit, but we didn't. I mean, we probably want to refrigerate it, but I don't think, you know, you're using it in a couple of days. There's a lot of sugar in there, so nothing neat.
But for how much sugar there is in that, it's a pretty balanced.
That was Lauren. Yeah. I mean, you guys know this about me. I love sweet. I love candy. I have gummy bears in my bed. You know what I mean? Like, I live for candy. You know what I mean? So they do the sweet part because I'm like, I love it sweet. Or it's so sweet. I'm like, I love it. Sorry, Mike, let's do me. I guess we go to the next slide. Find out. Oh, okay. Gosh, I just tell me. Sorry, I'm sorry. You guys get more of me. Okay, before we do this, I gotta say something I wanted to say earlier. So as a roaster, I've been roasting for a bit, but in no way do I think of myself as a master. You know, master roaster. I heard that master roaster. I was like, what does that even mean? I mean, I know what master chef means in France, but I don't really know what it means outside of France. So master roaster, head roaster, roast master, roast expert, roast. I was like, what does that mean? I'm a coffee roaster. The only thing that would allow me any kind of mastery of anything was the fact the other day when I took my hat off, I realized that I have a lot more salt and pepper in my hair, and I was like, okay, that's kind of a thing, right? That maybe gives me more cred. Like maybe I'm a master of something because I'm older. That's it. So with age, maybe I have mastery, but in no other capacity. You know what I mean? So I just want to say that. I'm still like a young heart. All right, so now we went on to a different coffee. So as we're doing this, I'm really focused on the Java because I kind of get one-dimensionally focused. But Steve, like I said, Steve gave me a new machine, so I'm having to do this stuff on a different machine. So we had a coffee in-house that I really like, the Guji. I love Ethios. This is a natural Guji. So I've already been roasting a little bit, so I was like, hey, I'm going to use the Guji kind of as my coffee to learn how this machine is a little different than the last machine. So when I do my Javas, I don't look like a complete idiot. You know what I mean? So the Gujis were a little bit like sacrificial, you know what I mean? So I guess that lends me to something else I wanted to say. So in my context of 85 to 95% perfection, in no way do I want to do disrespect to the customer or the producer. You know what I mean? Like we always have to carry those two in, like close to our heart. Like the one thing the master chef taught me that I want to carry to my grave, if you're in the culinary arts, you have to love the producer and you have to love the consumer. If you have love in your heart for the producer and the consumer, it's pretty freaking easy, you know what I mean? You just gotta take care of those two ends and our life is good, you know what I mean? And so, in no way do I mean, want to show disrespect to either of those two by not spending the time to get the coffee perfect, you know what I mean? I never want to act disrespectful to the product or the customer, because that's why we're here, you know what I mean? So, that being said. Okay, so the Guji, same thing, sample roasting protocol. Just like I said earlier, I do my simple sample roasting protocol. We cup the Guji. The Guji's, I mean, it's a grade 1 Guji from Cafe Import, so it's pretty freaking awesome, dude. You almost have to do more work to screw it up than to make it, taste awesome. Because this is a sample roast, and I would drink it every day. Floral, raspberry, pomegranate, but it is a little dry. Not a lot of time in the roaster, so that's just the life of it. We are on Java or Guji 1 though, right?
Guji 1.
Okay, cool. So we're gonna quickly go to Guji 1. So now we're in Guji 1. So with the Guji 1, you'll see something I've done quite differently. With my naturals, I'll charge low. I tend to charge low on naturals because when I was first trained on naturals, it was probably like 3 years I'd been roasting before I got to roast a natural, and it was a natural Sidama grade 3. And I remember being told by TJ that naturals become like runaway trains. If you don't control them pre-crack, they can just go too fast. And I remember just being like, wow, this is exciting, you know what I mean? And they did. It roasted too dark. So I learned then to just do an overall that's a great word, an overall more gentle application of heat overall the whole roast, really putting a lot of focus and control mid-dry phase, mid phase. Because if you don't gain control of the roast or slow it down to do what you want to do by first, it's over with the naturals. They're just rolling through. You know what I mean? And we train people basically to think of naturals as about 7 to 10 degrees darker at the same roast level as washed. So if you take a wash, if I take the wash Guji, which I have the wash Guji in house and I'm roasting for 30-30, and I take the Guji natural and I roast them to the same roast level, but I cup them or I take them to the roast right, they're gonna be, the Guji natural is gonna be like more like a medium, when the Guji wash will be more like a light. They take 7 to 10 degrees darker just because of the natural sugars outside and the way they're, as a seed, they're kind of already roasted a little bit, sitting in the cherry for that long time and everything that's happening chemically within that seed. Sorry, I digress. So I charge low, basically. Wow, that was a lot of words. So 350 degree charge, and I go with a little lower airflow, which is kind of weird too, but I want a little bit more point-to-point contact. I want to leave a little of that energy in there. Since I'm using a little more gentle application of energy, I'm going to use a little less air, because air can rob the seeds of moisture, and naturals tend to be kind of dry, especially ETO naturals. So 350 charge, air at 35. At 1 minute, I hit it with 2 kPa. It looks like at 2 minutes, 220 actually, I increased my airflow to 40. So I was kind of feeling like this roast is going a little too fast. So right away, I'm increasing my airflow, which probably was the 2 kPa, but this was the first roast on the new machine, which is kind of like, why did Derek choose the next expensive Guji? I don't know. So 3 minutes, I did 1 kPa, so I basically was like, at 2 minutes, I was like, whoa, too fast, increase airflow. At 3 minutes, whoa, way too fast, cut the gas by half. By that point, it's probably out of control. 347, I hit a dry end, which is 293 temperature. At 5 minutes, I increased my airflow again to 50, which was my high airflow setting in my previous roast, but I was still feeling this roast was going too fast. So then at 6 minutes, I increased it to 60. At 8 minutes, I hit crack at 376, and then I dropped it 933, 396. And I would kind of call this again the standard light. Standard light that maybe got a little bit too fast and a little bit out of control. But we cupped it, and it tasted sweet, berry, grape, soft acidity, and round. Actually, it sounds pretty good. What do you guys think? Oh, yeah. Yeah, this is all farmer. I mean, I was standing by the machine, so I did some stuff, but it was mostly the farmer, you know what I mean? So sometimes coffees are just easy that way. So good starter coffee, you know? You want to make a big splash in your roastery, in your little market, grab some Guji. All right, so then I basically went back to it and was like, okay, that was too fast. Let's go slower. Let's try and be a little bit better with the coffee here. You know, pay attention, Derek. Let's do this. So then I lowered my charge again, 340 charge, a little bit less energy, kind of that way I can go into a little less momentum. Air 35 again. I'm using a little lower airflow for this natural. And I also called this roast longer roast, more development. So that's just generally more time. 450, I hit dry end or green-yellow transition at 302. I increased my air to 45, basically to kind of slow down the roast. At 820, I then increased my air to 50. My higher airflow setting, that was probably when I hurt my first outlier. I then lowered my fuel to 80. At 840, I hit first crack. And then this roast went to an overall time of 1030 to 398. So pretty solid. This one we got strawberry, burnt sugar, melon, baker's chocolate, and light. So what do you guys think of this one? Solid? Like it? Okay, cool. Well, so do you want to have it maybe? Are you doing 2 or 3? Are you doing 2 or 3?
This is 2.
2. All right. Yes. So then again, I went back to the roaster again, and I was thinking to myself, okay, I'm going to do one more, and I'm just going to add basically more time to a darker level. More time to a darker level. Like basically, these roasts, in my opinion, were a little bit fast. I kind of want to just spend more time in the mid, and I want to go to a little bit darker roast level. Once again, it's kind of like changing the roast level, but trying to keep some things in the same kind of context. So I went to 350 charge once again, a little bit higher charge again, air 35 like I did on all 3 roasts. So I went a little bit longer stop and go on this one, or I should say soak. That's the term now, soak. When I was started, we called it stop and go, which is kind of stupid sounding, but I kind of like it. So at 135, I did 1.5 kPa gas. 437, we hit green-yellow transition or dry end. I then increased my air to 45. At 813, I hit first crack. At 372, I increased my air again to 55. And it looks like this roast went 1005 to 405. So it didn't really go much longer. Actually went shorter than the previous roast, longer than the first roast. So I kind of split the difference between the first 2, but then I went darker. And so when we cupped this one, we got cherry, berry, cereal grain, medium, and lingering. So I'm kind of interested. I might try this one, because this one is now rested quite a bit more, and I'm wondering if it's not no grain.
I think in Minneapolis,
Yeah.
I remember saying this one tasted like crunch berries.
Yeah.
I think it does still, but I think it has mellowed into adding some of the Captain Crunch as well.
Right.
So it's not just the crunch berries, it's
Right.
like kind of that honey sweet.
Yeah. Right. Wait, Nathan's got a taster on it.
I should get a coffee.
You should do this, right? Just stand in front of people and tell them about coffee. Nice. I got a little cinnamon from my previous thing though. I was like, oh, there's some cinnamon in there too. Oh, that's wrong. Yeah, nice. What do you think of this one? Yeah. Good. Cherry berry. All right. Cool. So then basically once again, kind of wanted to go into a decision. Hey, how are we going to do this? What are we going to decide on? Team decided on 2. Yep, it was 2.